So like for seniors, in October 1 or April 1, you can, you have to request final amateurism. So we make sure like, hey, if you're a senior and you have been recruited, make sure you request final amateurism by this date. So we have all types of information on our platforms for you to stay up to date. So you can pick your favorite platform and follow for updated information. And then that's all I have. So do you guys have any questions? So I think we're gonna have microphones. So you don't want a microphone? Do you have a loud voice? Okay.
Well, I want to make sure that everyone can hear your question.
Because they may have the same
question.
question.
My way to you.
They may have the same question.
Good evening. So my question was, how do we go about, I feel like he may already have an NCAA number. How do we go about finding out for sure if the athlete already has an NCAA number?
Great question, because we get a lot of duplicate accounts. There's one student athlete that has 4 accounts, and I'm trying to figure out which one he wants to use. So what you can do, if he remembers the email address that he used, he can put that in there. If he doesn't remember the password, he can just do forget password, and if it comes up with, oh, this already has an account, he can just reset his password and log in. If he doesn't remember, I can give you my card, and you can give me his name, and I can look it up to see if it's in our portal, and tell you yes or no. You're welcome.
How you doing?
Good.
Okay, so on the IRL list, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you said that a coach can put you on there today and take you off next week.
Yep.
Does it have to be the same coach or can it be a different coach?
So usually, that's a great question. So usually when college coaches do the recruiting, whoever puts them on the IRL typically is the one that deals with that student athlete, so they'll put them on or take them off. But again, that's at the discretion of the college coach. We don't see that part. All we know is, oh, this student athlete's on the IRL, and then we just watch to see if they stay on there by the time their account gets up to the top for us to review. So we don't see who. So it doesn't say Coach Allen put such and such on their IRL. It just, their account shows up for this specific college or university. So we don't know who puts them on or who takes them off. Yeah. You're welcome.
And then I'll come to you.
So we had one recruiter tell us that they don't look at AAU, they'll do college. We heard one say college and then not AAU, well not college, high school.
Yeah, and again, it's up, it's totally up. So how recruiting happens is, again, like I said, it is a different experience for every single student athlete and every single school. So you may get a college recruiting your student athlete who does both. You may get one that says we only go to high school competitions or we only go to AAU events. So it's really up to that college and that program on how they recruit. I still say if your student athlete has the ability to go to play AAU and club, also, if there are like camps, so a lot of times there are free football camps. I know who plays football. In April, in Atlanta, they're having a Rivals football camp. On Saturday, it's free for everybody, and then on Sunday, they invite student athletes. Sometimes I've seen student athletes come to the free part on Saturday and then get invited back on Sunday. So that's something that student athletes can do. If it's a camp that's nearby, you know, try to go to those camps, because a lot of times those camps will take film and make it accessible to the student athlete. Sometimes they will post it on their social media. So again, I would explore all avenues and options, because just because one school or college coach may say they don't look at AAU, there's hundreds of other schools and college coaches that do. So I would just take advantage of the opportunity of both.
I'd like to ask a question from a coaching standpoint.
Yeah.
As a high school coach, once the recruiting period starts, how much contact are the coaches allowed to have with me, or the recruiters? How much contact are they allowed to have with me as the high school coach? Like, what questions am I allowed to answer? What information am I allowed to share with these recruiters and these college coaches?
Typically, information that college coaches ask high school coaches is about their performance on and off the field. And that's another big thing, student athletes. College coaches do ask how you are and how your character is off the field. Also, if you have social media, even if it's private, they can find out. So, from a high school, you can talk to, you can reach out to college coaches on your student athlete's behalf. So say you have a student athlete that's interested in a school and they really haven't gotten any contact, you can reach out on behalf of that student athlete. You're kind of like their advocate. And then you can also, if a college coach, reaches out to you, typically they're gonna ask you about their athletic play, their performance, their academic performance, and their character. Now, if they go too far in the weeds, then I would say, I would probably, ask that student athlete's parent or guardian. So you don't want to give out too private of information, but usually, from my experience, college coaches ask me just about academic, athletic performance, and then their character on and off the field. That's a good question. Anybody else have a question?
Yes,
Yeah.
So the IRL is an inquiry that the coaches are asking for more information on the student.
Mm-hmm.
So typically, what's the time span from I'm putting her on the list to you guys actually getting to her name?
So it depends on how many reviews that we have to do. Typically, it doesn't take that long, but again, it determines how long that student athlete is on the active IRL. Like I said, there's been times where a student athlete is placed on today and taken off tomorrow, and if there were 9 accounts before her, she may not get to, the top by that tomorrow. So it depends. We have a unit within the Eligibility Center who do the reviews. And so again, it just depends on how many accounts they have to review. But typically it doesn't take that long.
And she can only be on.
She can be on multiple IRLs.
Okay.
She can be on multiple. There's student athletes that are on like 15. Or there's student athletes who are on 5. So they can be on multiple IRLs. Basically, again, what they're requesting is they want to see where that student athlete stands from an academic and amateurism standpoint to see if they want to continue that recruiting process.
Okay. Last question is,
Yeah.
for the partial scholarships, is there a maximum amount that they can get?
It's at the discretion of the college. So each college sport has a specific amount or a specific number of scholarships that they can award. So like I said earlier, football has the most. And so typically with football, you tend to see more student athletes get full athletic scholarships. Track and field, not so many. But it's at the discretion of the coach. So the coach can give her 85%, 25%, whatever they have. And it's also about what areas they need. So if I'm a track and field coach and I know I need a sprinter for next year, I need a thrower, I need a high jumper and a pole vaulter, that's 4 people already that I need on my team. So then they have to kind of get creative. That's where the academic performance comes in, because sometimes student athletes can get their entire school paid for through academics, and then whatever, maybe, the college coach gives on a 15% or 25% partial scholarship, then guess what? Student athlete gets a refund check. So that is all those things, especially with recruiting, are at the discretion of that college program.
There was another question right here.
Yeah.
So, how early can a freshman start reaching out to the coaches or the different schools? I've been accused of being thirsty.
You can never be too thirsty if you're trying to get money, especially paying for college. I always say, student athletes, focus on going to school for free. You don't want student loans. Believe me, you do not want student loans. So if you can get the money through academic and athletic scholarship, get all that you can. Apply for those scholarships. But freshmen you can email, you can text, you can call. All of this information are on the college's website. So if you're interested in Georgia Tech, right, and you play volleyball, and you haven't gotten anything from Georgia Tech, but you're like, oh, I'm interested, they can email or call or text or message the coach, introduce yourself, tell them what high school you go to. If you have an NCAA ID number, include that. Include what position you play, and then include some stats. And if you have film, include that. There's nothing wrong with reaching out to a college coach. You know, if they reach back out, you know, they may not, and it also depends on what type of the year it is. If you're a basketball player, I probably wouldn't, you know, reach out now because March Madness is coming up and that gets really, really busy for coaches, so it may be a while before they get back to you. But it never hurts to reach out. It never hurts to, you know, market yourself on social media because you never know who can see it. Because also, think about this, these college coaches know other college coaches. So if that college can't use you, maybe they have a friend at another college that's looking for a player like you, and they say, hey, I got this email from this kid, we can't use him, but maybe you can. College coaches do talk. So that could be an option. But there's email, contact.
So I'm not going to be doing too much. Okay.
You're not doing too much.
All right.
No.
And then you kind of touched on it as far as like programs like the NCSA.
Okay, so NCSA is a recruiting service. If you say it really fast, it sounds like us. But that is an option. It is not a requirement. They are a recruiting service. So what they do is they do have some free options with their service. But ultimately, what they're trying to do is get you to pay for some of the services. And I will say, if it will be beneficial to you, and you have the means to do so, and you don't want to even touch the part of uploading anything on social media or reaching out to college coaches, then by all means. I have heard, you know, different stories of different experiences that parents and families have had with recruiting services. But again, it's up to your discretion. It can get costly, but some of the platforms have features where if a college coach is looking for a 5'10" running back that runs a 4'3", I don't know, they can filter, they can go onto these recruiting sites and filter certain things, and then certain athletes come up who fit those descriptions, and then they can, you know, decide if they want to contact that student athlete or not. But I always tell families that it's at the family discretion to use recruiting services. It is not a requirement. Sometimes, you know, I've seen student athletes who did not have signed up for a recruiting service have the same experience or got the same benefits that student athletes who did. So sometimes student athletes think that they do a recruiting service, they kind of get a leg up on everybody else. That's not necessarily the point. So yeah, it's totally up to the families on that one to make that decision. Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I have a few questions.
Okay.
Real quick, the IRL. Does the student get notified if they're taken off?
No, they don't even know if they get on. So we are trying to be a little more transparent, and we don't know when this will happen, but we have suggested that at least student athletes, they don't have to. So we're not asking them to know what school it is or what coach it is, but if a student athlete gets put on an IRL, to get some type of notification so they can see like, oh, I'm getting some looks, and that means it's getting real, and I need to start doing X, Y, Z. So I'm not sure if that will happen. We've asked, and hopefully it will, so this process can be a little bit more transparent. But as of now, student athletes don't know when they are put on or taken off in IRL.
Thank you.
Mhm.
As a track and field coach,
Mhm.
have you taken students from other sports and put them on your team? And the reason why I ask that, I have a gymnast,
Uh-huh.
and the program she's currently a part of, a few girls have been recruited for track and field.
Mhm. So I would say personally, I do not take student athletes from other sports. I will encourage on off season if they can and have an interest to come out. And if they like it, great. If they don't, great. I was a multi-sport student athlete in high school, and so I think a lot of times when certain, and this has been my experience with coaching in high school, some student athletes get burnt out on one sport, and so being involved in another sport can kind of take a lot of the anxiety and the anxiousness and the pressure off of them. I have had student athletes, I'll give you an example. I had a student athlete who was a basketball player, loved basketball, wanted to go Division I. And she happened to come out and throw for us. The recruiting she was getting for track and field was not what she was getting for basketball. She ended up getting a full ride athletic scholarship to University of Miami, went to the Olympic trials. And so I tell student athletes that, you know, if you have the opportunity to play other sports, I'm always an advocate, especially for football players, to run track. I'm like, we're not trying to take you from football, but I will tell you that a lot of these football coaches are at these NCAA national championships. I will tell you that speed on the track is way different than speed on the field. And if you run track, you're gonna blow all of them out on the field. So, you know, that's my passion, y'all. But I always advocate for them to do multiple sports if they can. I had a gymnast as a track and field runner, and we had a great pole vault coach. And he taught her how to do pole vault because a lot of the skills that they do in gymnastics translate over to pole vault. She got a full ride to Ole Miss for pole vault. And so it's not taking them, because I have a lot of volleyball players too. They're like, you're trying to take me from volleyball. I'm like, I'm not.
And maybe that's the wrong word, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. But we get a lot of that though. They're like, oh, you're trying to take us from, because there'll be sometimes where football players, like the school I used to teach at, I tell the football players like, hey, come run track, and they're like, no, we want to do 7-on-7, we want to do this, we want to do that. You're trying to take me from football. I'm like, no, we're just trying to get you better. So when it comes to your time on the field, those coaches, you stand out from those other players. But I'm always an advocate for multi-sport student athletes. So if she's interested, and the thing is, she can try it, and if she doesn't like it, you know. But if they're interested in other sports, I'm always an advocate for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, I guess more specifically, she's currently in senior gold, and she's a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
Her end goal, well not end goal, but one of her goals is to make it to the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
She was told that that's unrealistic at the stage that she's at. Are you able to speak to that? And if not, are there other coaching avenues that we can get to?
So what grade is she in? 10. So one, it's still early. I never tell student athletes that anything is impossible. I've seen student athletes who are Division III type student athletes their freshman year, and they work very hard, and they're, you know, Division II, Division I mid-major student athletes by the time they graduate. So it depends on the amount of work that student athlete puts into their craft to get better. If that's one of her goals, I would say strive to do whatever it takes to get there. Whether it's, you know, finding a new gym or finding a coach that can, that's more apt to coaching her and showing her different things. Some student athletes are stagnant with certain coaches because that coach can't push them to that next level or get them to that next level based off of their coaching patterns. And that's not a bad thing, but some student athletes may need, you know, somebody who can, especially with technical sports like gymnastics. So I would say don't give up. If that's her dream, do all that she can to attain that dream. Don't let anybody tell her no. That's what I say. You're welcome.
Okay,
We have time for one more question, and
Okay.
then we're gonna wrap it up.
All right.
Okay, so real quick, as far as this goes, is it too late for a senior to start this? Asking for a friend.
Wait, what was the last part?
No, I said I'm asking for a friend.
Oh, you're asking for a friend. Okay, friend. So I will say it's not too late. It is close, and depending on what division they want to go to, will determine if they can compete right away or if they may have to sit out for a year. So for one, I would ask what level that student athlete is trying to get to. Number two, if that student athlete doesn't know how many core courses they've completed or what their core course GPA is, they need to go see their counselor ASAP to see that. Number three, they need to tell their school counselor that they want to, so then they can help them through the process, or have somebody help them register with the NCAA. Is that student athlete getting recruited by coaches?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment?
According to my
Okay.
friend,
Okay, talk to me after.
Okay.
Okay.
And then last thing,
Yeah.
with the implementation of the portal,
Yes.
has there been a decline in the recruiting of high school students?
That's a good question. We don't touch a lot about the portal, but I will say that there is a lot of college coaches going into the portal to get experienced, and more seasoned, I would maybe the right word to say, student athletes. If I'm a college coach and I'm trying to win a championship and, there's a running back in the portal that's, competed at that level for 2 years and I like how they play, I may go into the portal and get him over a high school student athlete. I won't say that recruiting of high school student athletes is obsolete and it's, non-existent. There's still a lot of high school student athletes that are getting recruited. I will say though, this is why I tell student athletes right now to be open with schools and divisions and levels as well, because of that issue. So if you have a student athlete who wants to go Power 5, Division 1, but maybe they're not getting recruited, but maybe a mid-major Division 1 is recruiting them, explore that opportunity, because that opportunity is still gonna, yes, it's not the glitz and the glam of a Power 5 school, but it doesn't diminish the type of experience that you will have. I will say, as a Division 2 student athlete, I didn't go to LSU and, I didn't have the cute sleeves and all that stuff, but our school still traveled and ran against LSU's and Georgia Tech's and Ohio State's and University of Illinois and all those top schools. And so I would just, be open.
All right, let's give Ms. Long a round of applause.
Yeah.